welcome back to video number 4 for the PQD. In this video, we're going to kind of briefly talk about a more in-depth analysis on the count-if formula, as well as how to make a weekly GDP weekly total, as well as the airport weekly total. And then I'm going to also address something that maybe I should have mentioned on the other video, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because it's all the same stuff, is updating the GDP daily total rows and then the airport total rows. So we'll just kind of jump right into that. One thing I will make a mention of is that I would recommend saving a backup copy of the database before you do any of this, because if you're going to mess it up, this is where you're going to mess it up. I've done it many times. It's just been the process of trial and error over the past 7 weeks of updating this thing that I've gotten to the point where I feel comfortable that I no longer have to. So I definitely recommend saving a backup copy. So jumping right into it, let's go ahead and unfill these blocks. That was just there as a reminder for me to talk about this. So we added a couple new airports in our GDP section throughout this week right here as I went through and did the rest of it. So to update that, all we're going to do is we're going to select this formula and we're just going to drag it down. That is going to drag this formula down to the next corresponding cell. So as you see, it's there and then that's there. Fantastic. Oops. Let me hit escape. That's something I'll talk about in a second. So we're just going to drag these two down. Drag that, click that, drag that. Okay, so let's just verify that the range is in fact correct on all of these. This is something that you're going to continuously want to monitor because it can shift a little bit. Like, perfect example, like this did. So as we can see, this one somehow shifted one to the right. Let's just go over here and make sure that, okay, it goes all the way back. So let's fix that real quick. So I'm just going to come down to the bottom for ease of access because, yes, it's going to be this way for all of them. So let's come down to the bottom. We're going to come over here. We're going to click the range portion of it, and then we are just going to drag this back one and hit enter. Now, all we're going to do is drag this up to correct it for the rest of them. Now, unfortunately, this isn't the greatest example, but it's still, I'm glad it happened because there's no data in here, so we couldn't see that it didn't change it. But if we come through here, we can see that it fixed it for the rest of them. So that's how you do you add a new layer, I should say, to the airport total column. Over here we have the GDP daily totals, which again accumulate over on this end as a running total of the total performance. So it's going to be the exact same scenario. We're just going to click this. We're going to drag it over to all the way to Sunday. We're going to drag this one over. We're going to drag this one over. Then we're going to drag this one over. So let's just go ahead and make sure that the data range is correct. So we have it go all the way up to the top. Perfect. It's going all the way up. Let's try this one. Count if ND. Good range. And then here's our range. This one drops down a little bit lower. That's okay. We'll just fix that. And then we'll correct it for the rest of them. And it'll be that way from now on. As you can see now, it comes over to here. And yeah, so the range all worked on that one. So fantastic. So that's pretty much it for continuing the daily total as well as the airport total. So now we'll kind of come over here and talk about the weekly total. So this is a weekly total of this data, but for only a week. So this allows you to compare how was this week's performance compared to last week's performance. So to do this, it's very simple. We're going to select this group of cells, copy it. As you can see, this always I've had this so it starts at a Sunday, so they all end at the end of the week, or they align with the end of the week. So I'm going to come over here, paste this. Now, this should auto update. So if you look at this, it's selecting this week. because we copied and pasted, it should update to this week. So it drags this range of cells over. So I'm just going to briefly go through and double check that it does in fact count the correct range of cells. Fantastic, it does. Boom, simple as that after we update the date information. So this ends on the 23rd and it started on the 17th. And as you can see, I forgot to update this last week. So this date actually ended, or this week ended on the 16th and started on the 10th. It can be pretty easy to forget to do that, but we could make worse mistakes. So now we're going to make the weekly airport total. So again, this is just a weekly accumulation of a specific airport. So to start on this, I'm going to copy this nice header that I've made. If you see this, it starts on Wednesday so that it aligns on the end of Saturday. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to just use my arrow pad to start on Wednesday, and I'm going to paste this. So this gives us our header. So this is something, I guess, or this is where things can go south. So we're basically going to copy and paste, thereby recreating this section here down this section to this section here, but we're going to rearrange the range or parameters of the formula. So what I always like to do is I'm going to reorganize this in ascending order. That way it's in alphabetical order. And now we're just going to, sorry, my Excel scrolls very fast. We're going to come over here. We're going to copy this, Control V, and then Control V over here. So as you notice, it doesn't really know what to do with this range, so this is something that we have to correct. It's pretty simple. It only takes a couple steps, so we'll just jump right into that. So here we have the PO section for all week, for all of this week for Atlanta. So we have to set that range. So we're going to come over, we're going to click this cell, we're going to go into the count if, we're going to select the range portion, we're going to click that, and that's going to allow us to set the range of cells that we want it to look at. Now that it has that, we're just going to click this, drag it all the way down, and it's going to update it for everything. I always like to take a sample. So let's say we have Phoenix here. I'm going to look and see that it is in fact counting Phoenix from Monday to Sunday. And let's just look real quick. If it would let me scroll down, we had 7 POs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all week. That good old reliable runway 8 airport construction currently going on. We all live out in Phoenix, and I'm currently interning over there, so that's why I know that. So anyways, we're going to now update the PD section for Atlanta. So again, Atlanta from Sunday to Monday. Click enter, drag this down. I'm going to take a sample. So here we have JFK. So sometimes it doesn't show it, which I'm glad that it did this. So let's try again. There it is. Yeah, sometimes, I don't know, it just doesn't want to pop up when it's not in sight. So we have JFK, we have going from Sunday to Monday. Fantastic. So we're going to come over here, do the ND for Atlanta, Sunday to Monday, click enter. We're going to drag this down. We'll take a sample at Boston again. There's Boston. We have ND. We have 1 ND. Correct. Now let's do it for unexpected events, even though they're all 0, but that's okay. Click enter. All right. And that's pretty much that. So here's an easy way that you can accidentally mess this data up. So at this point, you need to copy this data and paste special, which I'll show you how to do, but first want to show you why. So let's take Boston, for example. The number sequence we have is 2210. So if we were to leave this currently as the COUNTIF formula, what happens is when you rearrange this data, which you're going to do a lot later on, let's just say we wanted to do descending order, this data is going to change. This data doesn't move with this data because it can't filter this. It can't move them combined, I guess. That's the only way I can think of saying it. Because the reason that let's undo this. So did you notice 2210 is no longer there? But if we undo that sort, now we have our data integrity back. So this kind of comes back to you can only have one filter selection going. So if I tried to group all of this together, so let's say data filter, see, you cannot have multiple sections. Therefore, this unit and this unit are two totally separate things. So how do we get around doing that? Very simple. All we're going to do is we're going to select this data block. We're going to copy it. We're going to come back over here. We're going to do paste special. We're going to do values. Now it's a number up here instead of a formula. Whoops. Excuse me, had to hit escape. I clicked one too many times. See, instead of it being this formula, it's the number. So it's just the value that formula produced. Now we can come over here and rearrange once I put the filter back on. Again, remember, you have to select all of this to get this data to move in unison. Otherwise, what happened down here will happen up here. So let's rearrange. Let's say we wanted the POs in descending order. What's our best PO airport? San Francisco. But as you noticed, Boston stayed the same. So this section down here didn't move because this section up here did. All right, so I went ahead and just kind of put that back. So that's pretty much how you do the weekly airport total, just the weekly overall total, and then how you also add new formulas for new airports, as well as the updating the daily total. That's how you do it for the GDPs. The GSSs are the same thing. It's just, again, like I've said time and time again, it's just a bigger spreadsheet. So that's why I chose to do it on the GDP, so it's a little bit more zoomed in. Let me get this back over to the other screen. I apologize. So yeah, there's that. So I'm not really going to go over into how to do it on this because it's just the same thing. The reroutes are it's the exact same thing as what we did in the GDPs and what you'll do in the GSSs. It's just copying this. As you can see, it starts on a Saturday. I always like to keep it aligned, so I just scroll over on my D-pad, paste it over here, ensure that the sum, this one's just a sum because we're using numbers, goes from Sunday to Monday, and it is the corresponding category, which is PO for down here. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to double check this. Yes, works here as well, and it works here as well. And then it's as simple as that for the reroutes. And then the comment section, don't really have to do anything to because you do that as you update it over here. And we don't really run reports numerically off the comment section. That's just there for a visual guide. So let me double check my talking point list to make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. The next video is how we're going to now utilize this data into making the weekly recap report with the several charts and graphs. So I will see you in the next video.